We all have been through obstacles. We all been through the storm. We all prayed and prayed and prayed for breakthroughs. Tell me a little about your story in that space of your obstacles and what kept y'all motivated.
Okay. It was so many times I wanted to give up. So many. I used to be in my closet because I always had a big walk-in closet, and I was
Come on, tell you that.
That's the room for the fashions. But I used to be in my closet, like screaming in my pillow, like, "Why is this happening to me?" And there was just this little voice in the back of my head, just this little tiny tug, like, but what if next month, next year is the year for you? What if you give up and the next day would have been the day? And that happened to me for years. Just up and down, up and down, up and down. And finally I just quit caring, where I was just like, you know what? God got me. He wouldn't give me these gifts if they weren't meant to be, seen. And so I just started expressing myself without any expectation. And when I started doing that, I started having fun. And I just started being more confident. It's because it was like I don't care whether or not somebody likes it. I like it, it's fun to me, so whatever. And when I started doing that, and just being silly, like that's where the little yee-hee came from. Just me being silly. Just being silly, and that's the stuff that people resonated with. It's just me being my authentic self and not worrying about what other people think about it. That's what really did it for me.
And I think that's great because you just giving that to God and letting Him lead. And that's what we all should do. Just give it to God and just keep going. Because there's something that's gifted in each of you guys in the building, so you guys just got to keep pushing forward.
Absolutely.
A little bit about my journey. In the music world, like a lot like Muni, I've been making music for a long time, and I was signed for, like most artists, some artists go through like a shelving period. So if you know me from a long time ago, Sisterhood of Hip Hop, from some of my old music, I went through like a shelving where I had to basically find myself, figure out what my message was, what did I want my music and my story to really to stand for. And I feel like once I found that out and I had a clear vision of who I am and not let somebody tell me who I am, that's when everything started to make sense. A lot like you said, to piggyback off of authenticity. As long as you being your true self and you moving from an authentic place, everything you do will come to fruition.
Yes.
It just has to be authentic.
Yes, and just to add to what you're saying, one thing that is you can't fake the frequency. You could feel that, right? When somebody isn't actually, you can tell when somebody's really being them. And the thing about authenticity that's so powerful to me is when you really know who you are and you know how to recreate that formula and recreate that recipe, time will tell. It's when you're copying or when you're trying to be someone else or put on a costume, you don't know the ingredients, you don't have the recipe. And so eventually people are gonna realize oh wow, that's something funny about that.
That's really not in you.
That's not really you.
That's not really you.
Exactly.
Facts. And let's get into the pandemic. Honey, that 2020 messed up all of us, honey, including me. So how did that impact you guys creatively, mentally, spiritually? I know for me, I'll start with me. I was in my closet depressed. I had anxiety, I was in my head. Knowing I'm a PK, I come from the church, but I also knew dag, I'm on a move. This pandemic came and just ended everything, right? In my mind it did. And it really caused a lot on my body. And it wasn't even that I wasn't healed. I think my mind was playing a trick on me every day. Like I couldn't succeed. I'm gonna stay in this space. And I was so depressed, y'all. So for me, I have overcome it with talking to my mom, getting counseling, and really and truly getting into my word and knowing this is just temporary. The world's gonna get back to its safe place. It's gonna get back to their regular schedule. But I gotta move in faith. So that's how it threw me off, but how I knew to get back into my moment was to trust God and trust what I'm called to do. So I want to ask you guys the same. How did the pandemic affect you guys? Did it even do it? Did it give you some more creative sauce? Did it help you more spiritually? Like, how did it work for you guys?
I actually really enjoyed the pause because I felt like before I was always rushing to the next job. And also I think the pandemic really humbled a lot of people. It made everybody kind of like be equal. You know, it was an equalizer. So I enjoyed just seeing people be human, you know, and not trying to flex on you or whatever. But also, I started my Supergiant Records Money Long journey in January 2020. So for those first 3 months I was in Atlanta, just trying to figure out like, what is my sound? Who do I want to be in this era? And when everything shut down, we took those first 2 months to just kind of like go see family and make sure everybody was okay. And then there was a moment when it was like, well, girl, you can either keep going and push through this difficult time, and by the end of it, we'll see what happens, because we didn't know at that time how long it was gonna last. Or you could just give up. And I chose to push through. And that ended up being the best decision for me, because I got to work with everybody I wanted to work with. Everybody was available. So it was like exactly what I needed to jumpstart Money Long.
And everybody needed to work, child. Okay? Atlanta was even, I could see Atlanta highways. If y'all from Atlanta or been to Atlanta, y'all know we got traffic. So I was able to see them highways. Okay? Go ahead, B.
So for me, the pandemic was, I learned a lot in the pandemic, believe it or not. I had so much time, and like you said, I was going from one job to the next. And in this time, I didn't have like a studio we could record at. We didn't have anywhere where we could get work done. So me and the homies, we got a space. They got a big space, and we just went to the studio with our same group every single day, all three of us. We were supposed to be inside, but we made the most out of our time recording, doing anything that we could. I actually made a whole lot of money in the pandemic. I also did CoverGirl shortly, like CoverGirl came out in the pandemic. Like so many of my favorite songs I ever did, we did during that time, because I think we really got a chance to focus on the music and like what we wanted our sound to be. I also learned how to do nails in the pandemic, y'all, because I couldn't get a nail tech to come to my house. So the pandemic was great for me.
Yeah.
It was productive.
It definitely did a lot, like I said, for myself. But I went by these 3 words: I prayed, right, and I created. You know, because I had COVID in 2020, so that's why it took a toll on me. And I was in my closet, like praying, like, please, I need to learn how to sneeze again. I need to get my smell back, Lord. Like I got work to do. So it played. No, seriously.
When I lost my smell, it was very sad. I thought I was never gonna get it back.
I'm telling you, Jesus. So let's get to the next question. We talked that you guys are a brand. How do you guys know when to pivot?
When to pivot.
When to rebrand? Yeah.
I mean, for me, I did a huge rebrand from my government, which people might know, Priscilla Renee, to Money Long. Just because, you know, sometimes when people feel like they know you, they'll be a hater. They like block. You know, be like, oh, that ain't nothing but little Kiki from down the block. You know, and it's disrespectful. So by the time people realized that I had made this shift, it was too late. The song was already huge, you know, and they're still putting 2 and 2 together. I just ran into somebody the other day in LA that was like, I just found out 3 days ago that you are Money Long. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do I know when to pivot? It's just like when sometimes you just hit a ceiling and it's just not fulfilling anymore, or when it starts feeling like you're forcing it. Like I used to get a lump in my throat. It's like a little frog in my throat every time I would have to go do something I didn't want to do. And you should never feel like that. You know, you should always feel joy and happiness and excitement and passion for whatever it is that you're doing. So, I mean, if you're willing to kind of like put the work in and roll your sleeves up and get down in the dirt, you can change your life tomorrow to be something completely different than what you are today.
Maybe.
Oh, I was gonna say, you can't let the expectations of other people deter you from what you really want to do or what you need to do. So for me, I was always like one of those artists that's like, how do I make a hit song? How do I make one of those songs that's like everybody's gonna relate to? The only way to do the best things for you is to just be authentic and be yourself and really do what makes you happy, because it wasn't until I started making songs that I like, that I'm having fun making with my friends, those were the records that turned into hit records. Like, those are the records for me that everybody else likes when I'm having the most fun. If I'm going into things like overthinking it, it never works.
You know, I heard something at a graduation one time. It was like USC graduation. And the speaker said, whatever is most personal is most universal. Because we all think that we're living different lives. We not. We all got the same, stories. We all got the same experiences. We all pretty much had the same childhood. And a lot of the stuff that we're going through is exactly the same. And what we need to do is more things like this, is share. And then you realize that, oh wow, what I'm going through isn't that bad. My friend over here is going through the same thing. But we tend to like bottle it up, and we be too ashamed to tell somebody what we're going through. You gotta share, you gotta start talking.
You have to. And if we don't share, we won't have the compassion that we need for the next person to know, like, okay, that's not normal. Like, I should feel like that's not okay. I should want to help that person,
For sure. And what advice